Okay, just testing my microphone, ready to be going in a couple of minutes. So good evening to you all for those that are with me right now. But otherwise, I shall be joining this session myself in just a couple of minutes. Okay, good evening to you all. My name is Simon Mishevich from Optimize Accountants. I'm going to be giving you a whirlwind tour of everything around about coronavirus and the financial update. So let's proceed. It is currently 1 minute past 8, so let's jump on board right now to go through that. And interesting enough, when I did the last update on Friday, I thought that there would be no changes in regards to the government and the support that they might bring. How wrong was I? And to be honest, it was a positive change that we saw. So I spent probably a couple of hours updating you all in regards to what I was learning on Friday. And then Friday night came, and after my webinar session, guess what? I had another couple of hours to go through. And lo and behold, that took a lot of time and effort, as you can probably imagine. So interesting enough, here are my updates. Before I do go into my updates for that, we also ran, it was a busy week for me personally, we also ran a property tax workshop as well. And in that workshop, we talked about coronavirus very, very briefly. But we talked about the budget changes that was coming into effect regards to stamp duty, land tax, capital gains tax changes, income tax, Section 24, using a limited company, and partnerships. So if you have missed that video and workshop last Saturday, don't fear, because it is now on YouTube live, so you can replay that session. And it was a 2.5-hour workshop, but you can fast forward and replay things at your leisure. So feel free to do that at your leisure. Obviously today, just going on to date in terms of where we are in United Kingdom for coronavirus before I go to the financial impact. But obviously now we've got the cases, which is now 5,000. Nowhere near as much as Italy and China, but the numbers that I saw from the government was that it was very similar trajectory of Italy. So my laptop is somewhat reason burning up as I speak to you, so hopefully it doesn't just blow up, and hopefully we can carry on this session. Unfortunately, though, the number of fatalities in the UK has increased significantly and looks like to grow as we go through. So one thing that I will echo what I have been doing on my Facebook account. So if you've not done a friendship request on Facebook, please do, because that's where I put a lot of my tax updates on. But I will echo what's the NHS been saying and the government, and that's stay at home as much as possible. Here's the number, the spread. You can see the curve now being a huge, significant increase. And if you look at the number of deaths, obviously that's beginning to creep up as well. Now I do these updates every weekday at 8 o'clock, so you'll be able to catch that up at some point in the future. But here we are again on a Monday and my financial update. The things we've covered off in previous sessions is obviously we talked about the financial ramifications of COVID-19 and the recession we are clearly going to be headed into now. The FTSE twice now has fallen below the 5,000 mark, and Ross suspects it will fall further. Please do make sure that you get the government emails. I did say that in the previous email. I also talked about people getting a mortgage payment holiday from their buy-to-let mortgages and their holiday mortgages. Someone on YouTube channel, funny enough, I think misinterpreted that to say it's now a free period. A holiday means you still go back and then you've got to make those payments at some point. So you don't get it for free, which someone unfortunately took the wrong interpretation of. Do review your finance responsibilities with outstanding orders and direct debits and clear them off. I talked about rent guarantee insurance. So if you haven't, again, go back to some of the videos. I've created a playlist, interesting enough now, on coronavirus, and this will be added to that coronavirus playlist once I finish today. And I talked about tax delay payments. I'm going to go a bit more detail about that because when I did the previous updates, I didn't really have all the details, and tonight I do, so I'm quite happy about that. And the previous one, we talked about the government of bailing out limited companies such as ours, and indeed charity not-profit organisations by paying 80% of wages of people that no longer can work in the company. And this is to prevent the companies from making them redundant. So what they're saying is the government will pay 80% of those wages to keep them on your books. So when things do go back to normal, and I think we have to be positive about this, that things will go back to normal at some point in the future, then our employees are still our employees, and that's the aim of the government. There's a business interruption loan that I talked about in the previous session. I'm going to go into a bit more detail about that tonight as more information was trickling through over the weekend and indeed today. I also talked about no evictions for 3 months. So people that have financial troubles because of COVID-19 or being laid off cannot be evicted from the property for 3 months. So it's really an important thing for you to understand that. But there is support for your tenants to pay 30% of the market rent value. So that at least some money can go your way. But I did talk about getting insurances for your rental income from the NLA, guaranteed rental income insurance products, or indeed your own insurance product as a whole. I talked about closures throughout the UK. So obviously we saw pubs, clubs last Friday and schools as well. But now we are seeing club closures to parks and museums and various other things. So it is pretty much on lockdown. My understanding is that law will come into force in the next 2 days to make sure that we stay at home. And there will be fines up to £1,000 if you're on the street for absolute no reason. So that's to be aware of. And if you do have shops and you've closed down and you worried about things like business rates, then there is government grants again in that situation. So if you have a business and you're retail, it is a worrying time. But as we've just seen from previous webinar videos I shot, that 80% of wages can be paid to those staff members, so they don't have to be paid by you. And you've got business rates as well, and we've got backing from the banks. So really, yes, it's worrying time, but you know, it's more to do with we haven't lost our businesses anymore, and that's the thing that the government was trying to prevent. So this has been updated. So I've gone through now for employees and for businesses, an update on those. And the 3 things I want to talk to you tonight, there's a telephone number, but I'll shout it out. It's 0800 0159 559. And this is a payment of tax. So the government are doing a fantastic job. And to be fair, I was with Louise on Friday, and we was both in awe in terms of Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak in terms of providing this support to the country. I appreciate self-employed people. There is a discussion still going on in terms of how they're being supported. But one thing I would say is there are no payments on account. So and I'll come on to that. This is VAT payments on account. This is whereby if you've had a liability and you're about to pay a VAT bill between the 26th of March and the 30th of June, you can cancel that direct debit because you can defer it for another quarter. And in fact, there is discussions to defer it for an entire year for that quarter alone. Whether they increase that quarter into the next quarter, I'm not sure. But if you have a VAT payment that was coming out between 26th of March and the 30th of June, please do make sure that you cancel that direct debit, speak to HMRC of what you are doing, and then save that money in your bank account to enable you to stay afloat. Income tax, this is about if you are an income tax self-assessment person, then you would have had potentially a second payment on account due on the 31st of July. Again, the government are being very, very helpful here and saying that payment on account will not be required. You don't need to do anything here. In fact, you don't need to use that telephone number. You just don't need to pay it. And it will be deferred now till the 31st of January, in which you would normally pay your tax bill. So there's no issues regards to that. And you can indeed just get that paid off as you go through. So the other side to it is the delay of all payments, so time to pay service. If you have other tax liabilities and you're not quite sure what to do, corporation tax being one of them, then you can utilize that telephone number and discuss how you will pay it going forward. So if you've got a payment of corporation tax to be coming up in the next quarter, maybe you could agree to pay that over an annual period of time from 3 months' time down the line. So I think there have been a number of significant benefits from HMRC that I think is due to us and will help us out. The other thing that came out on Friday was this whole thing about a business loan. Those different terminologies. So just getting a message here. Oh, okay. So it looks like Boris is going to be doing another announcement at 8:30. So it's already 8:15 now. So I'm going to finish pretty quickly tonight. So I'm going to wrap this up so you can then listen to Boris and see what's going on with that. I rather suspect that Boris is going to be addressing the nation and to sort of the lockdown that I was predicting earlier. But finishing off this then, business interruption loan. So if you do need money from whatever source to keep your business afloat, we already described about the 80% of wages. We already talked about the deferment of tax and business rates if you're a shop or an office. So, well, mainly shops, to be fair. But the business interruption loan, there's lots of banking finance. So you can go to the British bank now and get finance. But what my bank manager was telling me from NatWest is that the interest rates from there will be more expensive than a standard commercial loan. Now, you don't have to pay it. There are payment holidays in terms of capital and interest. But overall, banks are willing to do more than what the government are. And I don't mean that to be sounding disingenuous. That's not what I meant. But the banks are genuinely trying to help and bring the interest rates down as much as they can possible. So my bank manager was talking to me about creating a loan for us if we need it, which will be to cover our operating expenses of the organization if we don't have income, etc. A lot of companies will be the same. So I was inquiring on behalf of many of our clients so I can get information out, which I'm doing right now. So I would speak to your banks. They will give you capital holiday payments. So even if you take a loan now, NatWest are giving up a loan of 1.2 million. So most people should be okay with regards to that. I know that the British Bank are doing 5 million loans, but most people listening to me probably wouldn't really utilize that. But there would be holiday payments for the holiday interest. Sorry, there would be holiday payments for the interest payments as well. Now, this is meant to be available from the 23rd of March, but as you can appreciate, a lot of people are now rushing into the banks asking for this information to be through. The reality is that it's probably going to be April, May before this money gets into your bank account. Very similar indeed to the 80% of wages to be paid to employees. That's not really looking like it's going to be coming to fruition until May. So if you're doing April and early May payroll payments to your employees, you are probably not going to get that support from the government. So you're going to have to pay first and then have it backdated from the 1st of March and have money coming to you from the government. And then afterwards, you would then get some support directly from the government. So if you have employees, make sure you do contact that telephone number. As we said before, the description and details will be below this video and indeed in our playlist as well. So make sure you look at that. As I mentioned before, we have an article that has all these updates. I look at that article every single day and all the sources of information from the government, HMRC, ACAS, etc. And I try and pull all that together for you to give you the most valuable information to help you with a financial crisis caused by coronavirus. I'll leave you tonight with saying, if you have not done so already, make sure that you get yourself a financial plan in place. It is so important not to, I'm not saying you would bury your head, but it is important to make sure that you've got your financials week by week. It's no longer looking like it should be month by month cash flow forecasting. You really ought to be looking at week by week, making sure that your payments going out, looking at every line of your expenditure in your business and saying, can I now postpone that? Or do I need it at all? And really question everything that you do to ensure that you can stay afloat, so that when this is done, when coronavirus is finally put to bed, there's a solution there, vaccine or whatever, that your business thrives and never mind thrives. So hopefully that's giving you a bit of an update. Tomorrow, what I'm going to be doing is more Q&A based. So it sounds as though a lot of updates are going to be quieting down now. So I will go more towards a Q&A focus and finding out what you guys are worried about and what you need to do. So join me tomorrow at 8 o'clock as usual. And hopefully we could talk about the financial impact of coronavirus, but then maybe looking at the positive sides of what you can do as well. So thank you ever so much for joining me tonight. Go listen now to Boris. Let's see what he has to say about the lockdown and other things, hopefully to help us out during this very troubling times. Stay safe, stay at home, and stay smiling. Until tomorrow, my name is Simon Mishevich from Optimize Accountants. See you again.